I didn't have a lot of time for this one, and I have something kind of important I need to get to. Anyway. Let's do it. So I'm gonna make it quick. Now, if you watched my reaction video earlier this year to the Nintendo Direct, you would see that I was actually not very happy with the news of a Skyward Sword remake.
While you're all waiting, however, this Legend of Zelda game will be coming to Nintendo Switch. Please take a look.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Oh. It's the one that nobody likes. Yeah. Skyward Sword was my favorite title for a little bit. Then I played Majora's Mask. Then I played Wind Waker again. And then I played Breath of the Wild. Sorry. But now I have to admit, the release of the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer gave me some ideas. Aside from the obvious, that yes, Skyward Sword does precede all other Zelda games, I'm of the belief the juxtaposition of placing the Skyward Sword game remake just before Breath of the Wild 2, yours truly, I think there is a direct there is a direct link. That is the worst caricature of Link I've ever drawn. If you have not played Skyward Sword, I would highly recommend you get the hell up out of here unless you don't care about spoilers. This is your last warning. Get the hell up out of here. What was the first thing we saw in the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer? Lots and lots of red and black hair coming from this corner here. And there was some black in there too. This is probably going to ruin my markers. Yes. Yes. Black and red hair, right? And then the next thing we saw was, oh mon dieu, qui ça m'appelle là? What the fuck is this? What is, I'm not gonna give up on it either. I'm not gonna give up on it either. The next thing we saw was dehydrated Ganondorf, right? Yeah. Yeah. And he was doing his YMCA dance with his no muscle. Why did that look like boobs? There's no other defining part and it already looks like boobs. How did I do that? Yeah, he was doing his YMCA move and I want to give him pecs or abs or some shit, I don't know, but he's dehydrated so he doesn't have muscles. Anyway, fucking hell. So we saw a dehydrated Ganondorf with his Mufasa hair, right? His black and red Mufasa hair. Or did we? Did we see Mufasa Ganon dehydrated? Or is it possible that what we actually saw there you go, it's gotta be like triangles and shit. Oh, which way did they go? These are triangles, right? Okay, so yeah. did we see demise? Did we see demise that could have been demise? When in the history of Legend of Zelda has Ganondorf ever had long hair? Canonically. Because if we count the Hyrule Warriors games, then oh fucking well. But that game isn't canon. The first one isn't anyway. Isn't it possible that it was demise that we saw at the start of the Breath of the Wild trailer? It's gonna make a lot of sense in a minute, but like he was rising, and I'll explain that. I'll explain everything. But he was rising, right? He was rising from the dark. And again, Ganondorf just I'm not fucking cutting any of that. Ganondorf canonically has never had long hair, but Demise did, and Demise's hair was all those colors. All the colors that we saw in the waves and such, right? Okay, what was the next thing we saw? What was the next thing we saw? We got a glimpse at Ganondorf, but dehydrated. Dehydrated. Bum ba dum bum 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 bum. Okay. The next thing we saw was like a crevice. Actually, yeah. Shut up! Fucking everybody wants my attention. We saw a crevice. And what was going on with that crevice? Aside from potentially demise Ganondorf rising from it? That's right. That's right. We saw... I don't got a pink marker? That's weird. Well, that's not her color, so... We saw the great... What am I... No. We saw the tremendous Princess Zelda who doesn't wear a dress, so I'm gonna make it like a shirt and like pant legs. You know what? I know what to do. And like boots. Such fucked boots. What shit. And then gauntlets. More gauntlets. And then fingers because yeah. And then lime green head because she's blonde and has long hair. Okay, yeah, that's gonna work. And Zelda was the next thing we saw, and we saw her falling down into that dark cavern where supposedly Demise or Ganondorf was rising from, right? And what does that have to do with Skyward Sword? Oh yeah? Okay. What does that have to do with it? What does that have to do with it? Watch this shit. I don't even need to erase nothing. Check this shit out, right? Ready? Check it out. Clouds. Right? These are clouds where the kingdom of Hylia was in Skyward Sword, and that's where Zelda lived, right? People were not allowed to go underneath the clouds. They weren't supposed to fly too low, right? Because they didn't know what was underneath there. So what ended up happening? Somebody needed Zelda. How were they gonna get her? They sent a tornado to get her. She fell below the clouds because of the tornado that was conjured by Girahim to pull Zelda under the clouds and into the darkness. So, the parallel there in the so far, right? So far, Ganon could be Demise. So far. And then Princess Zelda fell below. Below what? She fell. And it's juxtaposition, that's the word of the day. The juxtaposition of her falling in the same place where Demise was rising. Now after that, what was the next thing we saw? What was the next thing we saw? What was the next thing we saw? We saw clouds, right? Clouds. But we also saw Link falling through the clouds. Oh, this one's coming out a lot better. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Oh, I fucked it up. I had to say something stupid. I had to say something stupid. We saw Link falling through the clouds. Oh, I drew him like his classical look, but he wasn't in his classical look. He was actually wearing an outfit strikingly similar to his house clothes from Skyward Sword. But again, he was skydiving. He was falling from the clouds. Falling from the heavens above. And that was the core mechanic on some levels. No, it wasn't. That was like the core story hub world thing of Skyward Sword. Link would go up, because that's where everybody lived, and when he needed to go back down to solve a dungeon or figure out more clues as to what happened to Princess Zelda, he had to fall through the clouds. And in this game now they've introduced sky mechanics, a whole new sky level. There's only been, I think, in my history of playing Zelda, because I've only been playing since Ocarina of Time. With my tenure in Zelda, there's only been like a handful, like maybe 2 or 3 games that include the skies. We'll come back to that. So yeah, the next thing we saw was Link falling through the clouds, and yeah, and then the very next shot after him falling through the clouds is him using his parachute thing. What game was that first introduced in? I'll give you one guess. Time's up. Skyward Sword. I forgot the point I was making. Oh yeah, the parachute. That's the first time Link has ever used the parachute in the canon, as far as I remember. I'm probably gonna piss off a lot of Zelda fans, but I don't care. So far, we got Demise Rises. Right? No, that's not a question. Then we got Zelda Falls. That says fails. That doesn't say anything. Let me do it again. Falls. And then, after that, what else do we got? I already forgot. Ah, yes. Wait a minute. Are you serious? So the number 3 is Link? Also, shit. Also falls. Asterisk with a parachute. That's an R. God damn it. Parachute. with a parachute. Can you read that? I don't know if you can. It's completely obscured by light in the camera. So far we have Demise rises. It's Demise because he has the long red and black hair, and the next clue I will get to in a moment. I don't want to ruin it. Number 2, Zelda falls. She falls in Skyward Sword by way of the black tornado, and then she falls here. We don't even know how or why, but it was shown right after Demise and/or Ganondorf rises. Number 3, right after one man goes down, after one guy goes up, the lady goes down, the guy follows through. I can't speak right now. Link also falls, but not only does he fall, he falls in his X marks the spot pose that he did in Skyward Sword, and we see him use the parachute immediately. But I mean, to be fair, what else is he going to use? Unless he wants to go splat. Zelda always has had fall damage, so I'm not derailing that theory. That theory stands. It stands. So, number 4, and this one is a doozy. What was the last thing we saw in the Breath of the Wild teaser? What was the last thing? It was, no, I'm not gonna use that color. I'm gonna use this color. The Kingdom. I'm about to draw Cinderella's castle. The Kingdom of Hyrule. Wow, I can't. What the hell? The Kingdom of Hyrule that I can't draw. It's mostly just fucking mushrooms. And there's pervs out there that's gonna ruin it. But I don't care, I'm having fun. So, the Kingdom of Hyrule, right? And what did we see? Oh, I should probably draw all the other shit. Grass and hills. And then a body of water that goes through to the horizon. Right? Right? Yeah. Hills, grass, and you know, let's put some dirt right here, brown dirt, orange dirt, and some over here too. Now, right, Kingdom of Hyrule, grassy plains, the water, the hill, and what did we see? We saw red and black energy, dark energy, lifting the kingdom up, right? It was lifting it up off the ground. Now, it was lifting it off the ground, right? What is the significance there? The energy was red and black. Everybody would think, oh yeah, that's because that was the color of Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild 1. Fine, I give you that. But both of them have to come from somewhere. And Ganondorf, he is the reincarnation of Demise. Now here's the thing. The reason the castle that is rising is so significant, the reason I saved it for last, is because what was the last thing we saw at the end of Skyward Sword? What was the last thing we saw? We saw the Kingdom of Hylia falling from the clouds, right? Falling from the clouds. But not only was it falling, not only did it fall from the clouds and shit. No, it's an important detail for me to draw the bottom of the kingdom. So I'll just give it like this shape. Here's the most interesting thing. Here's the significance of not only the shape of the castle from top to bottom, and the fact that it fell, and the way that this thing was rising, and the way that Demise was rising, I'm telling you, it's all connected. When the Kingdom of Hyrule fell, where did it fall? Where did it fall? It fell into a big, strange, inside-out mountain, a giant canyon, if you will, but the canyon was spiral-shaped, right? It was spiral-shaped, and it, oh, you know what, that made that a bit too big, so, there we go, make it a bit smaller. So, it was spiral-shaped, right? The Kingdom of Hyrule's bottom was spiral-shaped, and it fell from Hylia, which was the actual kingdom in the sky, and what was at the bottom? Where was it going? Why did the kingdom fall? Because it was a last-ditch effort to crush a demonic entity known to everybody as the Imprisoned, with his ugly feet. The significance, for those of you who don't know and are still watching, is that was his weak point. His toes, you had to cut them off, then you would cut off his fingers, and then you would stab him in the head. Demise is the true form of the Imprisoned. And the Imprisoned, the only way we stopped him was when the Kingdom of Hyrule fell on top of him, and it was spiral shaped, and it was sharp at the bottom so that it would impale him once it got down there. So it's hard to ignore once you put it together. I was so upset that Skyward Sword was the next remake, even though, to be fair, Wind Waker had already been remade. It's the one that I wanted, but I get it now. I get it, because what they're telling us with this, let me go back. So what they're telling us here, let's review before I just go ahead and spill the beans. Number 1, Demise rises. That visual is important, and it's gonna tie into the last point, but Demise rises, right? And then Zelda falls. In both games, just when everything goes to shit, she gets sent to the abyss. And it's up to Link to, number 3, go down there. Link falls, he goes down there to find Zelda. He goes down there to find Zelda, and the whole thing is him skydiving to get down there. Which then leads us to number 4, and the biggest and final detail. The last thing we saw in Skyward Sword, the last thing we saw in Skyward Sword, and the last thing that we saw in this trailer was the kingdom. That's number 4 and then number 5, okay. The kingdom falls onto the Imprisoned, and for number 5, which ties into numbers 1 and 4, is the kingdom crushed. The Imprisoned aka Demise. The reason the castle is lifting, and the reason that the first thing they put it on both ends of the video so you wouldn't catch it, but I caught it. The first thing we see Demise Ganon doing, he's doing the Atlas pose, lifting the castle off of him. And what we see at the end of the trailer is his energy manifesting and pushing the castle off of him. It's no coincidence that it was in the same shape as it was at the end of Skyward Sword when it impaled him at the bottom of the spiral. This game, Breath of the Wild 2, is directly connected to Skyward Sword. I really didn't want to play this game again. I never wanted to play it again. But I'm gonna, because I'm a Zelda fan. Guys, I had a lot of fun drafting this theory up. It's very possible that I'm missing some things. But for now, like I said, this has to be a quick one. Please leave your ideas and everything that you might think about this in the comments down below. Let me do this the right way. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ARealDorkieHero. If you want to see more content from me, you can go over to the Dropping Loads page, where I do a show that I like to call What the Con. I go to a convention and I do cosplay interviews, asking the silliest questions to the most talented of cosplayers. And then I do another show that we all love to call Wake Up! Guys, I had such a blast coming up with this theory. I've never watched anybody else's theory videos before because theories actually kind of annoy me, for the exception of Pat. But I actually don't even watch him for education anymore. I watch him because I just love listening to him. If it's a 5 Nights at Freddy's video, then I pay attention. But outside of that, not really, no. But yes, please let me know what you guys think. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting something, but I gotta go.